The acid rain fell hard over Rust City, burning small holes into metal walls and broken ships. It was cold, dark, and full of danger. Rust City was where the forgotten went criminals, smugglers, and those who had nothing left. In this city, hope didn't exist. Two alien girls ran through the wreckage. Their skin was blue, their eyes bright with fear. The older one looked around 16 in human years. She had long silver hair, now soaked and heavy with rain. Her thin clothes were torn and stuck to her body. The younger one, maybe 8, held the older girl's hand tightly, coughing as they ran barefoot over rusted ground. They had no names anymore. No home, no one waiting for them, just each other. A broken engine shell became their hiding place. The older girl pushed her sister inside first, then followed, pulling a scrap of cloth over the opening. They curled up together, shivering. The younger one's lips were blue from cold. Her fingers clutched the older girl's arm. "Will they find us?" She whispered. "Not if we stay quiet," the older one said. But her voice shook too. The sound of boots echoed nearby. Voices, male, laughing. Those little blue rats again. "Saw them. Near the trader's lot. Boss says bring 'em back. Even half-starved. They'll sell for a good price." The girls held their breath. The older one pressed her hand over her sister's mouth. The footsteps grew louder. Then silence. One of the men stopped right outside their hiding spot. A metal hand reached in, pulling the cloth away. "There you are," he grinned. The older girl kicked out, but he grabbed her ankle. She screamed. Then a voice rang out strong, angry. "Touch them again, and you'll lose your hand." The man froze. A human stood just beyond the wreck. He was tall, wearing a black coat and holding a stun rod in one hand. His face was rough, his eyes burning with rage. Rain dripped from his beard. Behind him, a small hoverbike sat parked. "Back off," the human said. The gang member laughed. "What, you think they're yours now?" The stun rod cracked with. "Blue light," I said. "Back off." The man looked at his partner, then at the rod, then back at the human. "Not worth it," he muttered and let go. The gang backed away, disappearing into the shadows. The older girl crawled out slowly. Her leg was bleeding, but she didn't cry. She stood between the human and her little sister. The human looked at them. He didn't smile. He just dropped his coat and knelt down. "You two have anywhere to go?" he asked. The girls didn't answer. He pulled out a protein bar and held it out. The younger one reached for it. "Wait," the older girl warned. The human placed the bar on the ground and stepped back. "I'm not here to trick you," he said. "I've been alone too." The girls looked at each other. Then slowly, they crawled toward the food. The older one picked it up, broke it in half, and gave the bigger piece to her sister. The human watched quietly. The younger one looked up at him with big eyes. "You won't sell us?" "No," he said. "I'm not like them." The older girl didn't believe him. But her body was weak, her legs shaking. She tried to stand but stumbled. The human stepped forward and caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he said. "Let me help." She didn't fight him. She didn't have the strength. He gently lifted her into his arms and looked at the younger one. "Come on. Let's get out of this rain." The little girl followed. They reached a small cargo pod, hidden deep in the scrapyard. It was old but sealed tight. The human opened the door and carried the older girl inside. The room was warm. A heater buzzed in the corner. There was a bed clean with a thick blanket, a small table. Real food. The younger girl's eyes lit up. She rushed to the heater and sat close to it. The human laid the older one on the bed and wrapped her in the blanket. "You'll be okay," he said. "Just rest." He went to the stove, heated water, and poured it into a cup. Then he added something from a small bottle. "Medicine." He handed the cup to the older girl. She looked at it, then at him. He didn't speak. Just waited. Finally she took the cup and drank. After a few minutes, her eyes closed. Her body relaxed. The human looked at the younger one. She was already asleep beside the heater, curled like a kitten. He sighed and sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. Outside, the acid rain kept falling, but inside there was warmth and safety, for the first time in a long time. Two alien girls were not alone. And tomorrow, their real story would begin. The small room inside the cargo pod was quiet. The hum of the heater and soft breathing of the two girls filled the space. The older one slept deeply under the blanket. The younger girl had curled into a tight ball beside the wall, her head resting on the human's long coat. The human didn't sleep. He sat with his back against the steel wall, eyes half open, a tool in his hands. He was fixing a broken heater coil, not because it needed fixing, but because he couldn't relax. He had seen too many broken things in his life. People included. At sunrise, the younger girl opened her eyes. She blinked and looked around. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she saw her sister breathing peacefully on the bed. The heater was still warm. There was no shouting, no alarms, no boots stomping. She touched her cheek. No one had hit her. She crawled closer to the human and stared at him. "You're awake," he said softly. She didn't answer. He reached into a metal box and pulled out a biscuit. He broke it and gave her the bigger half. The girl looked at it like it might vanish. "Go on," he said. She took it. Ate slowly, quietly. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked away. "Do you want a name?" he added. The girl hesitated, then pointed at her sister. "She's Sira," he nodded. "And you?" She thought for a second. "Kiri." "All right." "Then," the human said. "Sira and Kiri, I'm Malin." She nodded once. That was enough for now. By the time Sira woke up, her fever had gone down. She sat up fast, eyes wide. Kiri was sitting on the floor, eating stew from a metal bowl. She smiled. He gave food. Sira stared at the human. He was stirring something in a pot near the heater. "Where are we?" she asked sharply. "Safe," he said without turning around. Sira looked down. She was wrapped in warm fabric, her foot bandaged. "You fixed me. You needed fixing. Why?" Malin turned and met her eyes. "Because someone should have done that for me when I needed it." That night, Malin showed them the door controls. "This locks from inside," he said, pressing the button. The door sealed shut with a soft hiss. "No one gets in unless you open it." Sira frowned. "What if you leave? What if you don't come back?" Malin looked at her. "Then you wait. But I'll always knock twice when I return." He tapped the door twice with his knuckles. Tap, tap. It sounded like a promise. Days passed. The girls began to heal. Sira's limp grew lighter. Kiri smiled more. They slept without nightmares some nights. Malin gave them space. He cooked. He fixed the solar panels. He cleaned out the water filters. He didn't ask questions, but sometimes he told small stories. "I once had a dog," he said one evening, handing Kiri a painted tin cup. "Looked like a walking mop. Barked at his own shadow." Kiri giggled. Sira watched quietly. She didn't smile yet, but she didn't frown as much either. One night Kiri asked, "Did you have children?" Malin paused, then nodded. "A daughter," he said. "Long time ago. What happened?" He didn't answer, but his eyes said enough. They were beginning to feel safe. Until the blood mark appeared. It was late. The girls had just finished helping clean the floor when Malin froze at the door. He stepped outside and stared at something drawn on the metal red, sharp and fresh. A symbol, 2 claws around a star. Sira knew it. "That's the mark of the scorch fangs," she whispered. Kiri trembled. "They found us." Malin didn't speak. He just wiped the blood off with a cloth, then rechecked the door locks. He moved fast after that. He reinforced the walls with scrap armor. He hid weapons in plain sight. He gave the girls panic codes if he said, Weather's bad. They'd hide in the storage hatch under the bed. Sierra finally asked, "Why are you doing this for us?" Malin tightened a bolt and looked up. "Because the world broke me once. I'm not letting it break you." That night, Sierra stayed awake. She sat near the window, staring into the rain. She remembered the last time the Scorchfangs found her, how they dragged her mother away, how they laughed when they locked the hatch and left her and Kiri inside a freezing hold. She didn't want to run anymore. The next morning, Malin placed his small toolkit in front of her. "If you're going to stay here," he said, "you'll learn to fix things." She stared at him. "Why?" "Because if someone breaks the heater again, I won't always be here. You'll need to know how to survive." Sierra opened the kit. The tools felt heavy, but they felt real. "Like power, I'll learn," she said. "Good," he replied. "We start today." As Malin showed her how to weld a cracked pipe, he didn't notice Kiri at the window. She was staring into the scrapyard. A shadow moved behind the junk piles. Figure. Then it disappeared. Kiri stepped back, heart racing. She didn't scream, but when Malin turned around, he saw it in her eyes. "They're watching us," she whispered. Malin stepped to the window, slow and calm. He tapped the door twice. Tap. Tap. Then he looked at the girls. "We have a rule here," he said. "You don't run. You defend your home." The wind howled over Rust City that night, like a wounded animal. It dragged dust and cold through every crack in the junkyard, slamming against the metal walls of Malin's cargo pod. Inside, the lights were dim. Sierra stood beside the workbench, her hands greasy from fixing the broken vent pipe. Kiri was sitting cross-legged on the floor, building a tower from old bolt casings. Malin sat nearby, watching a security feed on a small cracked screen. Then the screen flickered. Someone was outside. 3 figures, moving between the stacks. One of them had red armor. Another had a claw mark painted on his chest. Scorchfangs. Again. Malen. Stood. Calm. He tapped the door twice. Tap. Tap. Sierra and Kiri looked up. They didn't panic. They knew what that meant. Sierra walked to the bed, lifted the mattress and opened the hidden hatch. Kiri crawled in fast. Sierra followed, holding her wrench tightly. Malin sealed the hatch and turned off the lights. Everything went quiet. Only the heater hummed faintly. Then bang, bang. The door shook. A voice shouted, rough and loud, "We know they're in there, human. Open the door, and maybe we won't break your spine." Malin didn't answer. The voice laughed. "Fine, we'll come in anyway." The control panel outside sparked. They were trying to override the lock. Malin moved fast. He grabbed a short rod from under the table, a shock baton, and slid it into his belt. Then he reached for a switch hidden under the counter and flicked it. Outside, the ground under the gang buzzed. Suddenly, the junk under their feet lit up with blue sparks. Malin had rigged the floor panels. One of them screamed as electricity surged through his boots. Another slipped and fell. Malin opened the door before they could react. He stepped out. Fast. Sharp. One swing crack sent the red armored one falling backward, his helmet sparking. The others rushed him, but Malin ducked low, swept a leg, then jabbed his baton into a second man's chest. The electricity dropped him in seconds. Only one remained tall, fast, and carrying a plasma blade. He growled and swung at Malin's head, but before the blade connected, clang. A wrench hit him from behind. Sierra. She had climbed out of the hatch and launched her weapon like a missile. The attacker turned in rage. He grabbed her by the collar and lifted her off the ground. "Little pest." Then Kiri screamed. Not a normal scream, a piercing, vibrating sound that echoed across the junkyard. It shook the crates. Lights blinked. From across the scrapyard, a patrol bot, a floating machine with red eyes and armor plating, turned toward the noise. Malin didn't wait. He lunged at the distracted attacker, drove his baton straight into his ribs, and pressed hard. The man dropped Sierra, The scream stopped, and silence returned. 5 minutes later, the bot arrived. It hovered above the scene, red light scanning. Malin stood with his hands up, weapon on the ground. The gang members groaned on the floor. Report disturbance, the bot demanded. They tried to break in, Malin said calmly. 3 intruders, unauthorized weapons, threatened minors. The bot scanned their faces, identified the gang. Its voice changed to a colder tone. Repeat offenders, processing for reclamation. A claw arm extended from the bot, grabbing the stunned men one by one. Thank you for your service, citizen, it said. Then it flew away. Back inside, Kiri was still shaking. Malin gave her water. You did good. She looked up, eyes wet. I screamed. That scream saved us, he said. Sira held the wrench tight. I want to learn to fight. Malin raised an eyebrow. Why? Because next time I don't want to hide. He nodded. Then tomorrow we train. That night, as the girls slept, Malin sat outside, watching the junk piles. The stars above Rust City were faint through the pollution. But he saw something in the girls that he hadn't seen in years. Not fear, not pain. Strength. The next morning, training began. Sira learned how to disarm a knife with a metal rod. Kiri learned how to spot tripwires and traps. Malin taught them how to track, how to stay quiet, how to move fast. We're not running anymore, he said. This is your home now. They trained in the day. Repaired the pod at night. Kiri painted their names on the inside wall. Kiri, Sira, Malin, a family made from ashes, but outside the walls of their pod, something else was stirring. The scorch fangs were not finished. A new leader had arrived. Tall, pale, eyes like oil. A bounty hung in the air, alive or dead. Bring back the alien girls. Because someone had found out the truth. Sira and Kiri were not just orphans. They were from a royal bloodline, hidden during a war long ago. And now, the galaxy was watching. But Malin didn't know that yet. All he knew was this: next time, they wouldn't wait for trouble. They'd face it. Together. The junkyard was quiet, but inside the pod, everything was changing. Sira had bruises on her knuckles from hitting the training post too hard. Kiri had grease on her hands from fixing another broken wire. And Malin, once a ghost of a man now, laughed sometimes when Kiri made her silly tower of bolts fall. They had food, warmth, a lock on the door, but peace never lasts in Rust City. One evening, while scavenging for scrap near the old shipyard wall, Kiri tripped on a panel buried under dirt and ash. She called for Sira and Malin. Sira wiped her hands on her coat and crouched down. It's a hatch, she said, brushing it clean. Old cargo storage. Malin narrowed his eyes. I thought I sealed all the pods here. He muttered. He pulled out a scanner and pointed it at the hatch. A faint energy reading pulsed inside. Malin hesitated. Stand back, he said. He jammed a crowbar into the hatch's edge, pressed, and with a loud clunk, it popped open. Cold air rushed out. The smell of dust, metal, and something older. Inside, crates, stacked and sealed, covered in faded military markings. Kiri stared wide-eyed. Are those ... weapons? No, Malin said softly. They're memories. Back in the pod, they opened one crate at a time. Inside the first, old armor. Black plating with golden edges. Scratched but strong. The chest plate had Malin's name engraved in another language. You were a soldier, Sira whispered. I was more than that, he said. I was a guardian. Kiri opened the next crate and pulled out a folded flag. Its colors were faded, but the emblem of a burning star still shone. That's from the Liberation Fleet, Sira said. My father told stories. Malin looked at her, surprised. You knew the fleet? She nodded. We had to run when the emblems were banned. A quiet silence fell. The next crate was heavier. Malin opened it slowly. Inside, a small metal box, locked tight with 4 symbols etched into the lid. Sierra ran her fingers across the symbols. She froze. I know this writing, she said. My mother taught me. This is ... royal script. Kiri tilted her head. What does it say? Sierra swallowed. It says, Daughters of the Flame, protect them, and the line shall live. Malin's breath caught. He stared at the girls. You said your name was Sierra. She nodded. My mother called me that. And your sister ... Kiri. He stood, walked to a small locked shelf in the corner. He unlocked it and pulled out a very old hologram projector. He placed it on the table. Pressed the button. A 3D image flickered to life. It showed a woman, tall, proud, blue-skinned, with the same eyes as Sierra. She held a baby in each arm. This was recorded. 12 years ago, Malin said. She was my commander. And she told me ... if anything happened, I was to protect her daughters. Sierra's hands shook. That's my mother. Kiri stared, confused. That means you knew us before? No, Malin said. I never saw you again. I thought you were lost when the base was bombed. He looked at both of them. His voice softer now. I buried her. She died giving her life so the enemy couldn't find you. Sierra looked away. We were in a crate, a cold one. She locked us in. Told us to stay quiet. Malin closed his eyes. And she did it, he whispered. She saved you. Outside. A soft alarm beeped. Malin rushed to the screen. A new ship had entered Rust City's lower atmosphere. No trade markings. No ID. Someone's looking, he said. Kiri looked scared. For us? Maybe, Malin replied. Maybe for what's in that box. Sierra stood. No longer, unsure. No longer a weak girl. She picked up the chest plate with her name etched inside. Then we stop running, she said. If I'm truly her daughter, then I fight for what she died protecting. Malin gave a short nod. You have her fire, he said. That night, they opened the royal box. Inside was a data crystal, 2 small flame-shaped pendants, and a note written in trembling script. Sierra read it aloud. To the Guardian, if you find this, know that my daughters must live. They are the last of our blood. Keep them hidden until they are strong enough to rise. The girls stood in silence. Kiri clutched the pendant. Malin whispered, Then it's time to prepare. The pod became more than shelter. They reinforced the walls with extra steel, welded armor plates over the windows, turned the storage hatch into a safe room. Malin wired motion sensors to the edges of the junkyard. Sierra trained every morning. Kiri learned to speak the languages stored in the crystal. They were not just lost girls anymore. They were heirs to a forgotten crown. In a dark chamber aboard a silent warship high above the city, a shadowed figure stared at a red screen. 2 blinking lights. Moving. Alive. The royal bloodline still breathes. The figure whispered. He pressed a button. Send the bounty teams. I want them alive. A ship's engines flared, and the hunt began. The morning came, but the sky didn't look like morning. Thick clouds covered Rust City, dark and heavy like smoke. The sun was nowhere to be seen. Inside the cargo pod, Sierra stood in full armor. It didn't shine. It was scratched and worn, passed down from a forgotten war. But on her, it looked right. Kiri sat by the table, a hollow map open in front of her. She traced a path with her finger, her eyes sharp, now less child, more leader. Malin stood near the door, loading energy cells into an old pulse rifle. He wore his long coat like a shield, calm but ready. I received a signal, he said, glancing at the girls. Refugee ship. Crashed during descent. No ID. It might be real or it might be bait. Sierra didn't blink. If someone's out there, scared, cold, like we were, we go. Malin smiled faintly. Then we go. They loaded into a stolen skyhauler, patched together with old hull parts and a barely working engine. It creaked as it lifted off, but it flew. Kiri sat co-pilot, guiding the navigation. Sierra stared out the side window, watching the world grow smaller. Rust City vanished beneath smoke and metal clouds. Ahead, the stars peeked through a tear in the sky. She took a breath. She didn't feel weak anymore. They reached the distress signal's location, a broken refugee cruiser floating just above the planet's orbit. That it was tilting sideways. Engines dark, one side melted from plasma fire. Escape pods had already been ejected. But there were still signs of life. Multiple life signs, Kiri confirmed. Mostly children, no adult responses. Life support is dying. Malin guided the hauler close and activated the magnetic clamps. They docked with a sharp clunk. Sierra stepped forward. Open the airlock. Kiri, stay here, Malin said. But Kiri shook her head. They're scared. If they see me, someone like them, they'll trust us. Malin paused. Then nodded. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, and the silence of space welcomed them. Inside the cruiser, the halls were dim and filled with smoke. The walls had burn marks. Crates floated slightly in zero gravity. They moved quietly. Kiri held a small lantern. Sierra led, pulse pistol drawn. They found the survivors in a supply hold 11 alien children huddled in the dark, thin, shivering. Afraid, one boy held a pipe like a weapon. He growled, "Stay back." But when Kiri stepped forward and knelt, showing her pendant, everything changed. "I was like you," she said softly. "But someone took me in. Now I'm here to take you." The children stared. The boy's grip loosened, and he nodded. They led the group back to the hauler. Sierra held a girl who couldn't walk. Malin carried 2 others, one unconscious, one crying. They loaded everyone safely. The door sealed shut. The engines came to life. They were almost free, until a warning light blinked red. Incoming ship. Unknown class. No ID. No signals. Fast. Hostile. Mal. In single quotes as eyes narrowed. They followed us. The ship outside wasn't large, but it was deadly. Sleek, silent, and made for hunting. It bore the mark of the scorch fangs, now acting under someone far worse. "They won't fire," Malin muttered. "Not with the kids on board. They'll want us alive." Sierra looked out the window. "They're moving to dock." He handed her the rifle. "Then we don't let them." As the enemy ship latched onto the hauler, Sierra stood at the airlock, heart steady. The door opened, and the first attacker stepped through, armored and confident. Too confident. Sierra fired. One blast center chest. He dropped. Another entered. Malin grabbed him from behind, slamming his head into the wall. Kiri stayed in the cockpit, speaking calmly to the children. "You're safe now. No one's going to take you." But outside the cockpit window, another enemy ship appeared. Larger. Silent. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It only watched. A figure stood behind its glass tall, cloaked. UNMOVING. Ira noticed it. Malin did too. "What is that?" she asked. He didn't answer, because he knew that was no bounty hunter. That was the one giving orders, the one who wanted the royal bloodline. They fought off the first boarding crew. Sierra didn't miss a shot. Malin took a hit in the arm, but kept going. Kiri rooted the engines, burning out one to give them more thrust. The hauler broke from the dock. The children screamed as the ship shook. But they didn't crash. They escaped. Just barely. Back in Rust City, night had fallen again. Pod was full now. Children huddled in groups. Blankets wrapped around them. A new heater installed. More beds being made from old scrap. Sierra sat on the floor, cleaning her rifle. Kiri poured water for a crying boy. Malin stitched, his arm quietly in the corner. No one spoke for a long time, until one child looked at Sierra and whispered, "Are you the queen now?" Sierra looked up. "No," she said. "I'm the one who makes sure no one takes you again." The child smiled and fell asleep in peace. Outside on a nearby rooftop, a small red eye blinked. A scout drone watching sending data, and far, far away. A new command was given. They have gathered the lost. Now we burn the shelter. The storm had passed, but war was coming. Rust City didn't sleep anymore. Not since the hauler returned with 11 alien children. Not since the sky above started glowing red at night. Malin stood on the roof of the cargo pod, welding new plates into the wall. The metal sparked and hissed. But he didn't stop. Sierra was below, sharpening a blade with slow, steady strokes. She wore her armor now like skin. Not to look dangerous, but to remind herself that she wasn't running anymore. Kiri sat with the younger ones inside, showing them how to warm soup using solar coils. She hummed as she worked, trying to keep their minds off what was coming. But they all knew. The silence wasn't peace. It was warning. That night, a red glow painted the clouds. As Ira looked up and whispered, "They're here." Malin ran to the old scanner. A shape appeared on the display. Not just one ship. Sixth. They weren't bounty hunters. They were warships. "They're not coming for money anymore," Malin said. "No," Sierra answered. "They're coming to erase us." Malin nodded. "Then we don't let them." Inside the pod, Kiri called the children together. "Do you trust me?" she asked. The kids nodded, wide-eyed. "Then go to the safe room, the one under the floor. Don't come out until I say." The kids crawled in, quiet and afraid. Kiri closed the hatch, sealed it, and turned to face the door. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were calm. Above the junkyard, the first enemy ship lowered into view. It hovered, silent and huge, its shadow stretching over the entire scrapyard. Loudspeakers crackled. A voice echoed, "Surrender the royal blood. This is your last chance." Sierra stood at the door with her rifle. She didn't wait. She fired. The shot hit the front sensor, sparking against the hull. Then everything exploded into chaos. Enemy soldiers dropped from the ship's belly, black armor, red visors, energy blades in hand. Malin was already moving, firing from the roof. His aim was deadly. Two fell before they touched the ground. Sierra moved through shadows, picking off enemies one by one. She didn't speak, didn't shout, just moved like a ghost. She had become the warrior her mother had dreamed of. Kiri stayed inside, monitoring the feeds. She tapped the screen. One enemy was trying to circle behind through the supply crates. She picked up a pulse pistol, unlocked the side door, and slipped out quietly. Kiri found him just in time, tall, fast, sneaking toward the pod's rear. He never expected her. She fired once. Missed. He turned, lunged, but she ducked under his arm and threw her small body forward, slamming the pistol into his face. He dropped. She stood over him, chest heaving. "I'm not hiding anymore." Sierra's rifle clicked empty. She threw it down and pulled her blade. Two more attackers rushed her. She let them. She moved low, cutting the legs of the first, spinning to block the second. Her armor cracked from a hit, but she didn't stop. She stood over both men when it was done, her breath sharp, her hands shaking. She wasn't afraid. She was furious. On the roof, Malin took a shot to the shoulder and fell back. Sierra reached him, dragging him inside. "You okay?" she asked. He grunted, still alive. Kiri ran to them. "We took down the scout team, but more are coming." Malin's face was pale. He looked at the radar. A larger ship was descending, bigger than the others. Darker. And it wasn't landing. It was aiming. "They're going to wipe the whole block," he said. "Burn it from the sky. Then we send a message," Sierra said. "What message?" Kiri asked. "That we're not weak anymore." They dragged the last remaining crate from storage. Inside was something Malin had never planned to use again. A high-density energy cannon band in most systems. Too old, too unstable, too powerful. "We only get one shot," Malin warned. "Then we make it count," Sierra said. They climbed to the roof. The cannon hummed. Angry and alive, the main warship hovered above, charging a beam. Sierra looked through the scope. The fire in her eyes was brighter than the ship's engines. Malin whispered, "Your mother would be proud." She nodded. Then she pulled the trigger. The beam exploded from the cannon. Like a sun dot, it screamed through the air and smashed straight into the ship's underbelly. The sky turned white for one moment. Then dash boom. The ship tore apart in midair. Flames raining down across Rust City like burning stars. The ground shook. Windows shattered. And when the fire cleared, the cargo pod still stood. Smoke around it. Children still safe below. And three figures on the roof, silent, strong, unbroken. Later, in the soft morning light, the news spread. The bounty was lifted. The enemy had vanished. People whispered, "They survived the fire." Others asked, "Who are they?" And someone answered, "Not just survivors, not just rebels. There's something else now." The fires had gone out. The enemy ships were gone, wrecked or retreating into the dark sky above. Rust City. What remained was quiet. Ash fell like snow. And the three who fought, Malin, Sierra, and Kiri, stood outside their battered cargo pod, watching the morning rise over the junk piles like a second chance. Inside the pod, the children stirred. Some cried. Some smiled. None had been hurt. Malin opened the safe hatch and lifted them out, one by one. "You said you'd protect us," one whispered, hugging Kiri tight. "You really did." Kiri knelt beside him. "We all did it together. We're not alone anymore." That day, Rust City changed. The local traders, once silent and afraid, came with tools and wires. An old mechanic brought a solar array. A medic left behind a box of bandages and medicine. Even the bots that once ignored the pod now hovered close, watching, protecting. Because now, this place wasn't just a hiding spot. It had become something greater, a beginning. Sierra stood at the edge of the junkyard, where the sky still smelled like smoke. She wore no armor now. Just her clothes and a pendant around her neck, the same one her mother had left in the sealed crate. She looked at the old sign on the wall of the cargo pod, faded numbers and letters from some forgotten shipping company. Then she grabbed a piece of metal. And began carving. Later, the children helped paint the new sign. Malin hammered it above the door, "Home for the UNWAND," and below it, in smaller words, added by Kiri's hand, "All are welcome." The pod expanded. More rooms welded together from old containers and engine shells. Each child got a bed, a blanket, a drawer with their name scratched onto it. They took turns cooking, fixing leaks, rewiring panels. It was hard, but no one complained, because no one here felt forgotten anymore. One day, a small alien boy stood beside Malin as he worked on the roof. "Can I call you father?" he asked shyly. Malin didn't speak at first. Then he nodded. Double quotes. "Yeah, kid," he said. "You can." Word spread. Other children came, some walking through dust storms, some left quietly at the gates. A teenage girl with glowing eyes, a small creature with fur and broken wings, a pair of twins who hadn't spoken in months. Each one was taken in. No questions. Just warmth. Just safety. Sierra taught defense. Not how to attack, but how to protect others. "How do we know when to fight?" one boy asked. Sierra answered, "When silence lets cruelty win." Kiri became a builder. She learned codes, power lines, transmitter tech. She fixed what no one else could. Her voice, once quiet, now led the morning meetings. She was still young, but her words carried weight. Malin never left the pod. Again, he didn't need to. He was where he belonged. In a home he never thought he'd have, with a family he never planned for, but would die to protect. One quiet evening, Sierra sat under the old sky hauler, now resting as a rooftop greenhouse. Kiri sat beside her, sipping warm broth. "You think the enemy will come back?" Kiri asked. Sierra looked at the stars. "They might," Kiri frowned. "What will we do if they do?" Sierra smiled. "Then we show them what it means to fight for family." Kiri leaned her head on her sister's shoulder. And for the first time in years, Sierra didn't feel like a survivor. She felt like someone who had won, and far away. Beyond the system, in a high council room of silent judges, a message arrived. Royal bloodline confirmed. Protected by unknown human guardian. Resistance. Growing. A long pause. Then one voice spoke. Let them build. Let them grow. Because when they rise again, perhaps they'll be the leaders we failed to be. Back in Rust City, the lights in the pod glowed brighter. A new heater hummed. Laughter filled the halls. And over the entrance, the metal sign caught the morning light, shining like a quiet promise. All are welcome.